Hey guys, back with another video, impressions video on this game, Persona Q. And I say impressions video because I haven't actually finished this game yet. I'm over 50 hours in and I'm maybe a little more than halfway because apparently this game is like 70, 80, 90 hours. And the reason why I wanted to do this video is because, well, I wanted to give my thoughts on this game and let you know, let you guys know what I thought of it. And another reason is I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get around to finishing this game. There's a few reasons for that. I'll go into them a bit as I talk about the game. But the game itself is a game I was looking forward to, but with some hesitations. Persona Q is a crossover game between Etrian Odyssey and Persona. A lot of people assumed it was going to be like an Etrian Odyssey game with a Persona skin on it. It's got the same first-person dungeon crawling of the Etrian Odyssey games. And that's a series that I played Etrian Odyssey 4. I got maybe halfway through it, and I don't know, I found that game to be really repetitive, and I hated the lack of like an auto mapping feature, at least for the walls, which I always found I found it extremely tedious to have to draw in the walls every time. And I just didn't like the aesthetic to that game, and there was no story or characters to really latch onto. So I eventually dropped it, and I kind of dropped it thinking that the Etrian Odyssey series is probably not my thing. And you know, I haven't dismissed first-person dungeon crawlers completely. There's still a few I'd like to try, but with this game, it's another case where I'm really not sure if they're for me. At least I definitely the Etrian Odyssey type games, because there's things with this game I just do not like. I do much prefer this over Etrian Odyssey 4, and there's a lot to like here. And overall, I'd say I still do enjoy the game, and I've gotten quite a few hours of enjoyment out of it. And I would never say that this game is bad. In fact, if you love Etrian Odyssey games and you love Persona, this is going to be a dream game for you. You are going to absolutely adore this game, and most people are really loving this game. But as someone that's not big into dungeon crawlers and really does not care for the Etrian Odyssey games, there was stuff in this game. There were things about this game that really annoyed me, and still do as I'm playing it right now. And they get worse for me. I'll talk a bit about that later, but we'll talk about the story right off the bat. It's basically one of the best things about this game for me are the interactions between the characters of Persona 3 and 4. You begin the game by choosing one of the protagonists of either Persona 3 and 4. I think some like music changes depending on which one you choose. You get different starting characters. I think there's some different story scenes and dialogue depending on which one you choose. Like, for instance, if you choose the Persona 3 main character like I did, the Persona 4 main character will actually talk, which is really weird to me, and vice versa. So there's a lot of replay value there. Most people are probably going to want to play through this game twice, although that's something I would go nuts if I were to do that. The story itself, you basically find yourself trapped in a high school, Yasogami High School, which is the labyrinth. And each labyrinth in the game, I think there's probably 5, is a different area of the school. You find yourself trapped in the school, and you meet these two mysterious characters, Rei and what was the other one? Zen, and they've lost their memories. So the main story is kind of trying to escape this labyrinth, figuring out, what's, the meaning of this labyrinth, who these mysterious characters are. I think from what I understand, this game takes place like in the middle of Persona 4 and 3. I think, I don't know, I'm a bit confused on that. Like, there's things that confuse me. Apparently, this game is canon with the Persona storyline, which is weird. I don't know if they should have really went that route. I gotta say though, there's not really much story to this game. Most of it, when you're not dungeon crawling, is just character interactions and dialogue. But that's all amazing because the cast of characters here, like with Persona 3 and 4, are fantastic. All my favorite characters, any of your favorite characters from Persona 3 and 4 make an appearance here, all of them. And it's cool to see interactions between like characters from the two games. And the writing is hilarious. I've laughed plenty of times playing through this game. Teddy is awesome as always. It's always something to look forward to when you get out of the dungeons. And actually, there are some dialogue areas in the dungeons themselves. But like the actual writing and character interactions, I love. The main story, I mean, granted, I haven't seen the ending yet. Maybe there's like a mind-blowing ending or something. I'm not really expecting that, to be honest, though. But yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of the game, to be honest. It's just the characters and character interactions. Um, I'll go over visuals and sound. Visuals, it's got this chibi art style, which I know a lot of people have seen when they first announced this game, and a lot of people were kind of lukewarm on that. I don't mind it. I prefer like the more realistic proportions of like the characters in Persona 3 and 4 and the art style in general in those games. But I think it works quite well here. I don't mind the art style. It's very vibrant. It's very colorful, which is great. And the dungeons themselves, each are completely different in terms of visual design, which I loved. And the theming of each dungeon is quite different, which is really cool. So I don't really have a complaint with the visuals, other than like some jagginess to the character models and environments, which I don't think it's really the game. I think it's the 3DS. The 3DS is just really weak. So I mean, you're gonna get that for something like this, but I think the visual style is so good that you can forgive like the technical shortcomings. I mean, there's no problem with frame rate or anything like that, but yeah, the chibi art style, I'm fine with it. The game looks great. I think it overall does look great. Music is fucking amazing, as with Persona 3 and 4. There's a few songs that that you've heard in those games, some really great ones. The new songs are fantastic. The battle theme, for at least for the Persona 3 side, I absolutely love. As with all Shin Megami Tensei games, the soundtrack is absolutely incredible. Easily one of my favorite things about the game. Voice acting, like the Persona games, is amazing as well. There's not too much of it. Being a DS game or a 3DS game, they can't really fit too much of voice on the tiny little carts, but there's enough of it, and it's really top notch. There's some voice actor changes from what I'm used to. I mean, like Persona 4, for instance, I haven't played the golden version, so Chie in this her voice is very strange. Although I think her voice in this is actually even different than the golden version. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about the voice actors and the changes between them, but excellent voice acting, excellent music. So yeah, let's talk about the gameplay, the main portion of this game. Yeah, it's mainly Etrian Odyssey. It's more Etrian Odyssey if you play that. Basically, you go through a dungeon, mapping out the dungeon. You can turn auto mapping on or off. I turned it on because it would drive me insane having to draw the walls and just constant. Like, I like mapping to an extent. Like, this is the big deciding factor, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people are either going to love the drawing your own maps or absolutely hate it. I'm kind of in the middle, where I like mapping different icons and making notes of different places I've been on the map. I just don't like drawing the walls in. I find that to be extremely tedious, and luckily, there is a feature in this game that draws the walls for you, but there's still some mapping involved, which is cool. I think that's like a perfect setting for someone like me. So you go in these dungeons. It's first person. You've got your grid-based map at the bottom screen. You've got random encounters. You've got the FOEs from Etrian Odyssey, which are big giant enemies that you really want to try to avoid, because if they run into you, they're usually going to be way past your level and they can demolish you. Now, I've heard the FOEs in this game are a lot easier than the Etrian Odyssey games. I think I might know the reason for that. Granted, I didn't get too far into Etrian Odyssey 4, but from what I remember of that game, there were no actual FOE puzzles. This game, there's a lot of different puzzles you have to do, and a lot of them involve avoiding FOEs. I don't really want to spoil a lot of them, but you basically have to keep track of their movements and do puzzles while doing that. And some puzzle element might make them attracted to you, so they're going to go after you if you do a certain something. Again, I don't really want to spoil the puzzles to this game, but this leads into my major issue with this game, and it's something that I think boils down to preference. I've said this before. I cannot stand puzzles in games. I just cannot stand them. It's very rare for me to enjoy puzzles in games. To me, a lot of the times they get in the way of my enjoyment of a game, especially when they feel like filler. They feel like an afterthought. This game, I don't think they're that. I don't think they're meant as filler. Although they certainly make the game a lot longer than it would be otherwise. Um, I find them extremely annoying in this game. They start off not too bad, but the later dungeons, I like, oh my god, are they aggravating? Like, especially since at the point where I'm at in this game, I'm starting to get burnt out with it, and I kind of want it just end. And having to do these puzzles over and over again, and most dungeons, you'll like, there's each dungeon has multiple floors, right? So on the first floor, you'll encounter a puzzle, and it's a basic version of this puzzle. But as you go through these floors, they'll start adding variations to this puzzle. But at the end of the day, you're still doing the same kind of puzzle over again. There's also math puzzles in this game, which I fucking hate. So there's those in there too. There's I wasn't really expecting all the puzzles in this game, and they kind of they drove me up the wall. I really couldn't stand the puzzles. They were so aggravating that there was a lot of times playing this game where I was just like, I've had enough. I shut the 3DS and then come back to it another day. So yeah, if you like puzzles though, I mean, you'll probably enjoy the puzzles here. But if you're like me, yeah, I'd say be wary of them. Not to say all the puzzles were annoying. There's one puzzle actually, only one so far in the entire game, where I actually thought it was really clever, it was neat, it was fun, and it didn't outstay its welcome, and it was just a one-off, at least so far. But the rest of the puzzles just feel really repetitive because it's like that one puzzle, just multiple variations on it, and I don't know, it got repetitive to me. And then when you add the fact that most of this game is dungeon crawling, yeah, it's for me at least, it was very easy to get burnt out because you have the dungeon crawling, of course you can find treasure chests and things like that, and you can get like side quests that you can find throughout the dungeons. But a lot of those side quests I didn't end up doing because you have to go back through the dungeon and go through a bunch of random encounters. And the way the puzzles work too, a lot of times, like there are shortcuts you can unlock. Actually, one little detail that I thought was really nice, like the shortcut icon that you can choose on the map. If you like put it on the map, like it will adapt to how you go through it. Like if it's like a one-way wall where you can't enter from one side, as soon as you enter from the opposite side and put an icon there, there'll be an arrow showing that you entered from the one side. Like it's hard to describe, but people have played the game will know what I'm talking about. It's a really nice touch that I'm glad's in the game. I don't remember it being in Etrian Odyssey 4. But yeah, like I was saying before, like the FOEs, I think they're easier in this game because there's so many of them, and all the puzzles seem to be designed around them, and it's hard to avoid them in this game. Like it's almost impossible, I'd say, at a lot of points, especially when you're kind of making your way through a puzzle through a trial and error process. It's very hard to avoid them. So I'm thinking that's why they're maybe made a bit easier. Maybe they're still crazy on like the higher difficulties. I just played normal mode. That was a good level of challenge for me. Speaking of difficulty, there's a good variation between all the difficulty levels. Like you've got like a safety mode where if you die in battle, you can immediately retry. All the way up to risky mode where if your main character dies, it's game over, which I hate that. I hated that in Persona 3 and 4. I don't know why anyone would enjoy that, but it's there for those that are really crazy. So these dungeons, they're also extremely long. Like each floor takes so long to get through, and there's not much to break up the pace in terms of dungeon crawling. Like you might go through the dungeon, doing random battles, and then ever so often maybe you'll go to like the main hub, the school hub, where you'll fuse personas and whatnot. And in the main hub, other than like making weapons and buying items and things like that, and reporting in your side quests, there's a stroll option where you can kind of like hang out with the characters in the game. So there's some really funny situations there and cool character interactions, but that's about it. Other than that, the game is pretty much pure dungeon crawling. And because of that, I found myself getting tired of the game fairly quickly. And yeah, this game, if it's really 80 hours, like that's longer than the actual Persona, like Persona 3 and 4, or at least on par. And with the Persona 3 and 4, I love those games because there's the two aspects to them. You've got the social link stuff, and then you've got the dungeon crawling. So when you're getting sick of one, you can just do the other, and that those games have this really excellent pacing to them, and they're addictive. But this game, I don't know. There's almost too much dungeon crawling for me. And I mean, the dungeon crawling is quite complex, and it's a lot more involved than the dungeon crawling in, say, Persona 3 and 4. And I can see why people would love this. I can see why people really get into these types of games. I don't know if they're really for me at this point. Because yeah, with all the puzzles and just the amount of dungeon crawling, it starts to get to me. Now, the battle system itself, the actual battling, is really fun. I love it. I wasn't actually a huge fan of the battle system in Etrian Odyssey, but I really like the battle system here. It can be similar to that, where a lot of it is based on formation. You have a 5-member party, and characters will be better based on whether you put them in the front or the back, and each character has strengths and weaknesses. They each have the main persona, which levels up and you can't change, and then a sub-persona where you can change that at will, and they'll get different abilities. A cool mechanic here, like the press turn system from SMT4 and actually most SMT games, is not in this game. Instead, there's a boosting system, and what this is if you attack an enemy's weakness, if an enemy's weak against lightning and you use Zio or whatever, that character will get a boost. So their next attack you get for, like, the SP cost is free. However, if they get attacked while boosted, that boost disappears. And I like that system. I think it's really cool because it makes you want to use your really expensive SP moves. There's a lot of strategy too with that system. Also, because of the sub persona, you can get like a health and SP bonus where, where like if you end a battle and get into the next battle, you can recover some SP and HP because of your sub persona. So yeah, the battle system, it's pretty fast paced. Not quite as fast paced as SMT4 or actually, in my opinion, even the Persona games. But it's definitely enjoyable. I don't like it near as much as those games. But there is a lot of variety in terms of what characters you choose. And of course, Persona fusing is in this game, and that's still addictive. I still love that. Countless hours spent in that fusing screen, messing around with the different combinations. I haven't played an SMT game with this in it. Maybe it's in another SMT game, but there's sacrificing personas, where you can sacrifice 2 personas to raise like the experience on another persona that you have. I don't remember that being in other SMT games, and that's something I really enjoyed. So yeah, the battle system, it's fun. I don't know. I wish the dungeon crawling was I don't know, maybe faster and lacked puzzles. Again, this is something that most people are probably going to disagree with me on. And at the end of the day, I think it is a preference thing. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other things with this game. I mean, I guess there's not really much else to say. You know, I'm at the 4th dungeon's 3rd floor now, I think, and I gotta tell you, I'm just not really feeling it anymore. You know, I put it in the 3DS, I get in the dungeon, and then I don't know, I play for a few minutes. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I might need to take a break from this game, but as it stands, it's certainly enjoyable. I don't know, maybe there's I don't know, there's some disappointment, I gotta say, because I think the puzzles really hamper my enjoyment of this game. It seems like something that's so minor, and for a lot of people it is going to be minor, and for a lot of people it's going to be super enjoyable, but it kind of ruins the game a bit for me, I gotta say. But yeah, I don't expect this game to make my Game of the Year list, which is something I wasn't expecting. I was really expecting to flat out love this game, but yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on it. Maybe I'll finish it, maybe I won't, I don't know. But yeah, more negative than I expected. But at the end of the day, if you're into dungeon crawlers, if you're into Persona, if you're into Etrian Odyssey, you're gonna love this for sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be one of the few people out there that isn't completely over the moon about this game. But yeah, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.